Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's program. It is my pleasure and my privilege to invite you on behalf of the Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, which we usually just call Makaias, and the Institute of Social and Cultural Studies, ISCS, jointly presenting this evening's international panel discussion on India-Afghanistan, current relations and future directions. Before we begin the evening's program, I would like to invite Professor Bimal Nanda, Coordinator, Research Institute, ISCS, who are the co-hosts this evening, to come up and give us the welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I welcome you to this beautiful international panel discussion. As you all know, that we have some scholars and speakers here who are renowned in their own field, so they need no introduction. I can only give you some short welcome address. Three institutes are associated with this joint venture. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies. It's a research institute in social science under the Ministry of Culture, though it's an autonomous body. Institute of Social and Cultural Studies is a Kolkata-based organization established in the year 2010, and it's doing extensive research on India and our neighbors, India's policy towards our neighboring countries, and Indian Ocean, etc. Chandra College is also a college which is associated with this panel discussion. It was established in 1947, and it's a reputed college in South Calcutta. Today's international panel discussion is on India-Afghanistan current relations and future directions. Now, bilateral relations between Afghanistan and India, as you all know, have traditionally been strong for a long time. Probably all of you know the name of Gandhari. Gandhari was from Gandhar, at present which is Kandahar, situated in Afghanistan. We have a strong relationship based on historical and cultural links. Afghanistan is not only just a tool in any power game. It is a growing nation. It needs to rebuild everything that was lost in those years, 25 years, starting from 1979. Now Afghanistan is trying to rebuild itself. We have to help it. I think our panelists will throw light on different areas where India and Afghanistan can cooperate and they can build a new world order. Thank you very much.
For many of us in Kolkata, I think the images of Afghanistan is remnants of Kabuliwala. Written in 1892, I think even today it reverberates in our houses. And I think beginning with that, our endearing relationship with Kabuliwala and Afghanistan has, I think, stayed on. This is, of course, specifically for our Bengal. This story was also, of course, housed in Kolkata, which now, of course, is our capital city, but even then. And I think most of Indians actually relate to that. But indeed, over the years, we've seen that India and Afghanistan have really cemented and deepened the relationship. It's really multifarious. At various levels, the linkages have deepened. And there is something which is very distinct, I feel, about this particular relation in the region. There is a sense of mutual healthy respect for each other. I have never heard Afghanistan ever accuse India of being flippant about it, which many of our South Asian neighbors do. There's a hugely mutually respect for each other, and there's a sense of, belonging, of wanting to do good for each other. I think that's something which is very distinct in this particular, I would say now, the South Asian. We, of course, include Afghanistan in South Asia and SAARC these days. I will just close my initial remarks by saying that India's broad objective in Afghanistan, and since we are going to discuss bilateral here in great lengths, and of course the regional imperative, which I know some of the speakers bring to the table, is really to ensure there's a orderly political and economic transition into a modern state. Also ensuring that the safety and the security of Indian assets and personnel, I think that's something imperative, and that's something really core of India's interest in the region. As I said, Central Asia, ensuring that Afghanistan is able to provide us with a free access to the region around Afghanistan is something that is also one of the main objectives there. But more importantly, we just want to ensure, and we are happy, and I know that Afghanistan is constantly looking at us to see how we can support them, assist them in becoming a modern state. I would now like to invite my first speaker, Mr. Nazir Khabiri from Kabul, who will, of course, touch upon the domestic issues and also how they view the bilateral relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Datta, and fellow colleagues from Makaias, as well as our host Institute for Social and Cultural Studies, Mr. Mukherjee, and my friends, fellow panelists. Some of them I already know, Dr. Saab Sena, and Sachin Bhai, and Bansal Saab. I honor your friendship, and of course, this is a honor being in front of you today, this evening, representing Afghanistan. So this is a sign of hospitality, something else which is in common between us. They put me to speak first. It's not because I am any senior in terms of my capacity or knowledge, but just because I am mehman. I'm the guest here. So mehman nawazi is something which is hospitality is again another aspect of our common culture and commonality. Otherwise, Sana Saab and Sachin Saab and Bansal Saab are way more senior and experienced on a lot of these agendas. So I thank you again. And as I said, your friendship is my honor. And as you say in Hindi, Yari hai iman mera, yari mere zindagi. All right. So, Dr. Datta, you talked about Kabuliwala and Tagore Saab, of course. Can you hear me well? The voice is good. All right. Okay. Kabuliwala, perhaps the way it was described is someone, perhaps a simple fashion character who is always taste the truth in a manner of fact way. So I will be a little too frank today, perhaps drawing from the example of Kabuliwala, the way it was presented in the chapter itself, a simple fashion character with a lot of honesty and truth in his behavior. So with that in mind, I will be focusing on 4 key issues. And then I hope it can help set the floor for the rest of our friends in the panel to elaborate further on some of those agendas. So what I will do is I will give a quick introduction into the situation in Afghanistan, not to the senior citizens and more experienced participants in this gathering, because you have lived through some of these situations, but to those who are at my age, perhaps the missing stories. And then next I will talk a little bit about India-Afghanistan bilateral. In this third part, I will talk about some common challenges with a little focus on state-sponsored terrorism and issues that both Afghanistan and India suffer from. That's another challenge that affects the bilateral relationship. That's the third element of my talk. And the fourth is the opportunities, the way forward, in terms of economics, connectivity, Chabahar, some of the other common agendas that we can together develop. So starting up with the first aspect of the agenda, as I said, Tagore Saab's presented the Kabuliwala in a more classical perspective on human identity and differences. So building up on that, which is, again, of course, it's our brand in India. As our president, Dr. Ashraf Ghani said that earlier in one of the gathering. So we don't have to invest much in branding in Afghanistan, thanks to Tagore Saab for the great job he has already done. I am here in front of you bringing a commitment of the Afghan youths that we will not stop our efforts. And I am here telling you that we are back again. And my message is that Kabuliwala is still alive, but a little weak. Kabuliwala is now, at the same time, a little more sophisticated. Kabuliwala understands dushman and dost, which is a good thing. And Kabuliwala at the same time has the wisdom to seek peace with the neighbors, but also the courage to defend his interests. And lastly, Kabuliwala, well, again, my flight was canceled yesterday. Air India couldn't fly. There was heavy snow in Kabul. Kabuliwala, perhaps I found some other alternatives. I came through Dubai and changed a few flights here and there, but I still came. So Kabuliwala is coming again through the air corridor, and Kabuliwala is coming again through Chabahar. I thank you.
I've seen certain elite, especially in the policy-making circles of Delhi, saying, what have we got to do in Afghanistan? Do we really have stakes in Afghanistan? I think very often people tend to forget that a strong, stable, democratic, liberal Afghanistan is in India's interest. And I think we need to understand that the forces that are fighting the Afghan government, that are represented by Taliban, represent forces which are by no means insular. Please understand the aims and objectives of Taliban today are no longer insular. It's far more closely aligned with the global Islamic forces. Its linkages with Al-Qaeda are established. Please understand at no stage has Al-Qaeda said that it wants to wage a global jihad under Ayman al-Zawahiri or earlier under Osama bin Laden. The jihad which Al-Qaeda wants to wage has always been under Amirul Muminin, who was earlier Mullah Omar and now is Akhundzada. So, Al-Qaeda and Taliban have their umbilical cord attached. Their aims and objectives are no longer confined to the geographical frontiers of Afghanistan. Globally, it has been acknowledged that India's strength is in services, and I think that is where I think the focus of our assistance to Afghanistan should be. Because, of course, infrastructural projects we need to do. But, as I said, in Indian case, the problem is that every infrastructural project is supervised by bureaucrats. Because bureaucrats are considered to be the sole repository of all virtues. So every corporation, be Aircon or Exim Bank, everything will be headed by a bureaucrat. So that has its own inherent delays, and that creates its own problems. So I feel services is really the field where we must go. We must actually send our IT firms, etc., once the security situation improves, to bring more employment into Afghanistan. And we must remember, Afghanistan is a time-tested friend. Both in 65 and 71, when bulk of the global community was against us, Afghanistan stood by us like a rock. And I think our time has come for us to repay this country in its own time. Thank you.
Let me thank Dr. Shirada Datta and my good friend Arindam Mukherjee, sitting there, hiding there, for giving us the opportunity to speak in Kolkata on Afghanistan. The situation in Afghanistan is very fast changing. So people are very happy today, are very depressed tomorrow, and very happy day after tomorrow again. Two things we must understand about Afghanistan. One, you cannot have peace in Afghanistan unless Pakistan is on board. Let's be very clear about it. The road to peace to Kabul lies through Rawalpindi, which is the headquarters of the Pakistani army. The second, despite what our maps tell us, on the ground, India does not have a physical border with Afghanistan. Our maps show a border, yes, of course, but that is POK. And therefore, our ability to access Afghanistan gets limited. Afghanistan's gateway to the world is still largely Pakistan. And with the nature of the Durand Line and the people, we know that that's a relationship which is a very strong relationship. Which is why President Karzai also described relationship between the Pakistan and Afghanistan as co-joined twins. Indians were upset. Co-joined twins are the two most difficult persons for each other because you're joined at the hip, so you can't move without the other moving. So that is a sign of as much opportunity as frustration. And we were depressed without understanding it. The question to me was, and I was working for the UN Don't speak as a UN official, speak as an Indian. Tell me what did you get right that the others got wrong post 47. And we think we are bad. But we are seen as a plural, economic, democratic success and economic success. So I think that is the kind of, but soft power by itself doesn't get you anything in that sense. India's ability to help Afghanistan stabilize is limited, but very sensitive, because it's very easy to start blaming Afghanistan and Pakistan can be friends, but for India's interference. And that will be used as an excuse to interfere in Afghanistan. We cannot allow that to happen. We can never allow anybody to blame India for anything which goes wrong in Afghanistan, because it will be unfair to the Afghans. That is the bottom line. We cannot be embarrassing or putting them in a situation which they have difficulty to explain, even though actually we are right. But how you project it is very, very important. So our relationship will be strong, will remain very, very strong. It will suffer tactical defeats every now and then, which we have to accept. But our money that we have, I don't use the word put in, it's not an investment. It's development cooperation. It's not even development assistance. It's not a donation. It's two countries working together in the larger interest of human society. That is there, that has delivered results. It will deliver more results as time goes by. And as the Afghans are able to fight off the enemies of the people, I think we are ultimately, over the medium to long term, we'll have good times. But in the next 3-4 years, let us be prepared for lots of setbacks in the short term. Thank you very much.
I think points have emerged broadly at 4 levels, as I heard the previous 3 speakers, including Madam Chairperson. I think points have emerged very categorically in terms of security, economic development, the angle of the third country, that is Pakistan, we have been discussing, and the larger connect. I would like to focus exclusively on economic issues. And economic issues which have, of course, as Mr. Sinha very rightly explained, interlinkages with the security. And security issues are something which has been bothering us for last 40 decades. And these 4 decades we have seen, in terms of 40 years that we have seen, the issues are in terms of reconstruction. And every time reconstruction begins, we have another crisis coming up. So as Prime Minister Modi very often says, we have demand and we have the dividend of this growth process. So that geography of peace or space that was referred to by our chairperson in the beginning, I think that's extremely important. Making a state in Afghanistan responsible is another major challenge. A country is to be built based on rule-based norms, and of course that direction would have to be important. Last, and I would definitely like to mention here the point that other countries are going to play, the fact that India is trying to work closely with Russia and Turkey to provide the stability that we expect in Afghanistan as part of Heart of Asia process. But here it is also important for Afghanistan to see how Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are playing different games here, and that probably would hold the key for us to move forward in terms of various challenges that we are seeing in Afghanistan. Thank you.
We can see a lot of our Kabuliwala friends here, and I'm sure they would have some interest in interacting with our speakers here. But a lot of students, and I can also see a hand going up just now. So we'll keep about half an hour for the Q&A. What we'll do, we'll take a few questions in the initial. I please would request all of you to first introduce yourself, and if you have a comment, make it brief, and a query for whichever speaker you want to address it to. Yes, over to you, gentlemen.
Ma'am, my question to Mr. Nazir Khabiri is, myself is Bhashar Majumdar, I'm a blogger. My question is how, say, India and Pakistan both have strategic interest in Afghanistan. How can Afghanistan cope with the conflicting interest of both the nations? And number 2, how can Afghanistan cooperate with the international community to develop its international trade relations?
Afghanistan is, as I said, in a location that it beautifully connects Central Asia to South Asia. Central Asia, as alluded earlier by our friends, is rich of natural resources, and Afghanistan is a transit country. Unlike Pakistan, that doesn't prefer to be a transit country, the resources like the natural gas and electricity and the transmission lines can pass through Afghanistan to the resource deficit South Asia. And this diplomacy is at the heart of our development agenda. We want to play a neutral role with respect to the managing the interests of the region as a whole. But this is not an easy job. With respect to the trade, which you asked, and the rest, so long there's no stop to the violence, I guess the development agenda doesn't take priority. I'm coming from that background, and I'm a little too disappointed with what we have been doing earlier. We have to put an end to this war, or at least develop the mechanism to stop it and then build the schools. That's how I see it.
Our heartiest thanks to Mr. Nazir Khabiri from Afghanistan. He has taken quite a lot of hardship to come here to Kolkata and encourage us in our journey. We hope that our relationship will grow in future years. I now extend our sincere thanks to Galaxy of eminent speakers from India, Dr. Sridhar Datto, Director, Makaias, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Director, RIS, Mr. Shakti Sinha, Director, the Nehru Memorial Library and Museum, Captain Retired Alok Bansal, Executive Director, South Asian Institute of Strategic Affairs. I now thank the institutes like Makaias, ISCS and Chandra College for organizing such a significant program. Finally, on behalf of the organizers, I thank all the ladies and gentlemen of the audience who have come here to made this program a great success. Here also I take the opportunity to thank the fraternity from press who have accepted our invitation to cover this program. Lastly, I thank the authority of Rotary Southern who have allowed us to host this program and extended all support. Thank you.